Hey everyone, what's going on? It's your boy Krebsy Crypto, and for today's video we'll be going over this article that talks about the Intel Arc GPUs and how they'll focus on affordability, which is really good to see, especially in this GPU market as of late. Over the last year or so, the prices have been very inflated, especially with resellers and just having like the nvidia RTXs and things like that. There's only been really two guys in the market when it comes to GPUs, nvidia and AMD, and they always seem to have like a higher price point compared to other GPUs and other lower end companies. But the two main companies that have been doing it are nvidia and AMD. AMD is supposed to be the more affordable one and focus on gaming, where nvidia has kind of been like the higher end spectrum of things, which I totally get. You're always going to have a higher end when it comes to whatever electronics or whatever thing in the world, even with clothing and anything of the sort. You're always going to have that higher end name brand. But it's good to see companies like Intel that are actually going to be looking at affordability and something for like lower end, on the lower end of the GPU spectrum. So it's nice to see that type of thing. Like myself, I'm looking at Intel Arc A380, and that is around $150 to $200 Canadian. So it's really nice to see something in that price point, especially with 6 GB. Normally around that price point, you'll see like a 2 or 4 GB graphics card when it comes to like NVIDIA or AMD. When AMD is literally supposed to be kind of the budget friendly card, it still has a very high price point. But now that Intel Arc is stepping in, it's going to be bringing the price point even down lower, but still have that gaming aspect when it comes to the graphics card themselves. So there's going to be some competition and some tension when it comes to these other companies. So we might actually see it help in a way as well when Intel Arc comes in and starts releasing these competing graphics cards that compete with like the 3060 and lower, or even like the 4000 series that's expected to come out with NVIDIA. It could bring those price points down as well. But we're just kind of going to go over this article. It's kind of been slow in the news lately, so this is the article I could dig up for today. But we'll go over it and just kind of discuss what Intel's plan is when it comes to some of these graphics cards. And they also have a next generation GPU already in the works. So it's great to see this because it's going to be budget friendly. It's going to be good for gamers and miners that are looking to kind of start into it or just upgrade their current graphics cards or mining rig if you are a miner. Like myself, I'm going to be using it for mining purpose. So it'll be good to see these kind of lower end, lower price point graphics cards come out. I shouldn't say lower end because they are still going to be gaming capabilities and like a higher end when it comes to like gigabytes and all their aspects of the graphics cards. It's just going to be a cheaper price point because Intel is a pretty solid name and they mainly make their money off the CPUs, motherboards, and things of the sort. So Intel intends to compete on the lower end of the GPU spectrum. It is already busy developing its next generation Battle Mage PC graphics cards. I think that's how you pronounce it, Battle Mage or Battle Mage, something of the sort there. But it's good to see they're working on something next generation already. I know the Intel Arcs haven't fully released yet, but it's good to see that they have this technology like the Intel Arc A770s, the A380s, and like the A series, you could say. And they're already working on something next gen to compete with these higher end companies. So Intel's first desktop gaming graphics cards are finally launching on October 12th. So now we have an official date. I know I've made a few videos on the Intel Arc and like kind of speculating when it's going to be released and when things are going to come out, but it's finally launching on October 12th. But the timing couldn't be worse as Nvidia and AMD are preparing to release their own next-gen products. Meanwhile, GPU demand is in a slump amid an economic downturn and a crypto mining bust. So in my eyes, it's not like bad timing or anything, because people are going to be looking at all these different graphics cards like NVIDIA, AMD, and now Intel, and they're going to see what's best for their buck. And if Intel is releasing something that can compete with these higher end graphics cards at a much lower price, I see Intel kind of overtaking the market share in a sense. It might not come like instantly, but over time, as the word gets out and as more people start to use these Intel Arcs and really see what they're capable of, we could see kind of a shift in the whole market where AMD and NVIDIA aren't the top dogs and where Intel might come up just because of their price point and their strength and like their gaming technology and who knows whatever their mining capabilities are too. Even though there is, as people like to call, a crypto mining bust, but it's just Ethereum that's not mineable, so it's kind of shaken the whole market and it's made it so that things aren't profitable right now with mining. Doesn't mean people are giving up, because if the market in the crypto world starts pumping again, you're going to see a lot of profitability come out of this, or a lot of people just holding these coins are going to end up making a lot of money, which in turn will end up allowing them to expand their mining rigs or mining facilities and things of the sort. So really, it's kind of a smart time for Intel to kind of release this, so that way they can see how they can compete when nvidia and AMD are releasing theirs. See if people are really looking for that cheap price point, or if they're going to stick with the big names and the big brands and spending the big bucks. But however, Intel says its ARC graphics cards still have a shot at standing out in the market by hitting a sweet spot when it comes to offering the best price per performance. Intel graphics head Raj Kadrui, I think, or we'll say Raj, told PC Mag on the sidelines of the Intel Innovation event in San Jose. And that's what I was just explaining. They're gonna kind of hit a sweet spot when it comes to giving the best bang for the buck compared to nvidia and AMD, where nvidia and AMD just sell because they're a big name, so they can jack up their price points, and they're kind of the luxury graphics cards, if you will. But a lot of people like myself and others kind of like to stick on a budget, so that's where Intel is really going to come in and take a lot of this like market share, is with a lot of the budget gamers and a lot of people that are looking just to start out, or maybe some people that want to switch away from nvidia and AMD and not have to spend a paycheck on just a graphics card, in my opinion. The company's strategy, so Intel's strategy, is already visible in the ARC A770, the most powerful GPU in the ARC line. Intel plans on selling it from October 12th for only $329. So that's one of their strongest GPUs in the Intel ARC series, and it's going for under $400. So that's a really good running rate if it's going to be one of their very high-end graphics cards in a sense. It's a surprisingly low price, days after nvidia announced its own RTX 4000 series starts at a whopping $899, but it goes as high as $1,599. So right there, you're going to compare. You're going to think to yourself, okay, if I could spend $329 and almost get the same, capabilities as the RTX series, instead of paying $900 to $1,600, I could just pay $329 and come out on top still, because it's going to run what you need. It's not going to be anything above and beyond. It's going to get you to be able to run these high-end games. It's going to allow you to render really well. It's going to allow you to run games at a high frame rate. It's going to be a solid graphics card all around without spending, digging deep in your pockets of spending a high amount of money. So it's great to see this competition coming into the market, because it might settle down some of these high-end prices that nvidia and AMD do. I know I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit when I talk about that, but that's going to be the main thing about the Intel ARC series, is best bang for your buck. However, though, the ARC A770 isn't geared to compete against the most cutting-edge premier gaming GPUs. The company's own benchmarks for the ARC 770 suggest it'll go head-to-head with NVIDIA's RTX 3060 and RTX 3060 Ti models, which start at $329 and $399 respectively. But that's still a really good price point in my perspective. If you are just competing or trying to compete with the 3060s, it doesn't have to fluctuate in the price, unlike the NVIDIA RTX series, where it's $329 and $399 or higher. So it could be really any of the price points. Who knows, at the end of the day, it could run as well as the RTX 4000 series. I know the benchmarks say differently, but if people are more comfortable spending that price point at $329 and just accepting that instead of going to the RTX 4000 series for almost $1,000 a piece, Intel is going to have a lot better of a time compared to NVIDIA when it comes to these GPUs coming out, in my opinion. But really, that's just my opinion on it. I feel like it could, in a sense, go head-to-head with the 4000 series. Maybe not in the sense of when it comes to the graphical power of things, because NVIDIA always goes above and beyond what you actually need. If you get the basics out of everything you need and just pretty much essentially what you need to run these high-end games, why would you go above and beyond that when there's really no need for it, in my opinion? If you can just get everything you need out of the Intel ARC series with just spending $329 or lower, why wouldn't you just go for that instead of digging deep in your pockets and going for something, 3 times as high in the price point when it comes to the RTX? This also means Intel will have nothing to rival NVIDIA's RTX 3070, 3080, 3090, or anything in the RTX 4000 series. But in response, the head of the Intel graphics line says that Intel's strategy is to offer desktop graphics cards that can fulfill what gamers need. This includes offering ray tracing and super sampling features at an affordable price. And that's what I mean by just getting what you need If you just need the ray tracing or super sampling or just something with a higher gigabyte with a lower price point, Intel is kind of knocking at your door and is going to be right in your ballpark when it comes to like this GPU battle, you could say. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, I think that's how you say it. I know I'm bad with pronunciations of names, is also signaling the Arc series will try to stand out by focusing on affordability. And he quotes, "For a long time, we've been seeing the average price of a GPU is right in this $200 to $300 range. But what happened in the last few years, they've just gotten super expensive and we don't think they need to," he said on Tuesday during his Intel Innovation keynote. Which is what I mean, because nvidia and AMD kind of run the whole market themselves, so they can determine what people are going to pay because there's not much competition. So in a sense, it's kind of like a monopoly because you only have these two high-end companies and nothing, lower end or in that middle point. But that's where Intel is jumping in and saying, okay, look, we've noticed, the average price point in this area, what people will pay is $200 to $300, and we think we should make something that's affordable in that range, but still giving you that full gaming experience. Like I said, the high frame rate, the ray tracing, super sampling, all the good features when it comes to graphics cards in a sense. And this could also be a great thing for mining as well, because it's going to allow people to enter the mining industry at kind of like a lower end price point. Instead of going out and buying 3060s or 4000s or 2060s, you could spend like $150 and just get started in mining and see if you like it. And then if you don't, you can turn around and use that graphics card for gaming if you want, or just sell it at a fair price instead of having to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a whole rig setup. However, though, the strategy also means Intel is going to avoid competing against the most powerful GPUs from nvidia and AMD, at least for this generation. So for this generation of the Arc series, it's not competing against the most powerful or most high-end GPUs of nvidia and AMD. Instead, Intel is moving in the opposite direction. On Tuesday, the company confirmed it's preparing to release a low-end Arc A310 card, which is expected to cost even less than the Arc A380 product that Newegg quietly began selling in August for $139.99. So that's the one I was looking at, and obviously that's the American price, $139.99. But in Canada here, it runs anywhere from $150 to $200 depending on the sale, and you can only get it on Newegg right now. And they kind of quietly released it. It wasn't promoted or anything, but seeing a card, that gets listed cheaper than that will be a good thing for the market. Having all these lower end budget cards is a great thing because it could just shake up the whole market, and Intel can grab a whole chunk of the market share when it comes to graphics cards. If these things end up being even their next generation of cards, it could be a whole different playing field when it comes to nvidia and AMD releasing cards next time down the line, in my opinion. Because now you're going to have three major companies involved in the GPU spectrum, and who knows whatever smaller companies chain off at Intel as well. So I'll just quickly throw up the specifications of the A380 compared to the A310. The two that are going to be the most budget friendly out of the Intel Arc series, I think. Even then, though, their top of the line one, the A770 or whatever it was, is still going to be only $329. So that's still a very fair price when it comes to the capabilities it can handle. But as you see, the A380 has 8 X cores, has a graphics clock of 2000 megahertz, 6 gigabyte GDDR6, and there's more specifications. But the A310, and this one's going to, mind you, this one's going to be lower than $139, has 6 X cores, a 2100 megahertz graphics clock, and 4 gigabyte memory. It lacks a few, obviously, comparison points when comparing it to the A380, but that's expected in a sense because the price point's going to be lower. Obviously, they're just not going to give away a high-powered graphics card in a sense. They're still going to charge a little bit of a price point when it comes to the higher-end, next-generation, better technology, but it's nothing going to be to the extent of thousands of dollars like the RTX series. On October 12th, Intel plans on launching a whole range of Arc GPU models. In addition to the $329 A770, the Intel graphics lead, or the head guy, adds, the company will release pricing at a later time, but given that the A770 is the most powerful model in the series, the other models will likely cost in the $100 to $270 range. So that's a fair price point, in my opinion, obviously, depending on the specifications of it. So you're going to have the Intel Arc series that's coming out on October 12th, kind of priced in that $150 to $330 range, and it's going to have a wide variety of models, so that's always good to see. There's going to be something for everybody, but then other ones that they come to push out in the coming time, so new models that they plan to release, they're more so likely going to cost $100 to $270 range for kind of like the lower end next generation models from what I'm getting from this article. So that's a great price point to see. They're coming down on the price even more, but depending on what the technology ends up being, that's really going to determine how this is going to play out. But like I said, intelarc just is going to stand out in general because of the affordability spectrum of things. As for the future, they told journalists in a briefing that Intel is already busy working on the follow-up for the first generation of ARC cards through a second gen series codenamed Battle Mag or Battle Maj or something of the sort. I'm bad at pronunciation there. And they quoted, "The performance attainment that we've seen is basically miles and miles ahead of where Intel was while developing the first ARC GPUs. So they're already miles and miles ahead. So the technology is already more advanced than what the Intel Arc is already seen. So that's great to know. Obviously, with the first generation, the second gen, the third gen, the technology is just going to grow. But hopefully we don't see the price point keep working its way up. Hopefully, in a sense, it kind of stays around this current range where the Intel Arc GPU models are. Even if the next gen ones, push $400 or range from $200 to $400, it still will be a better price point than what the RTX series is. And a lot of these Intel Arc ones already compete with the RTX series, in my opinion, from what I've seen with a lot of the specifications and with how they run games and the frame rates and things like that. It already outdoes or competes with a lot of like the 3060s, the 2060s, the 3080s and such. They're obviously not going to tout about it in a sense because it still's not released, so we still have to fully see. But according to benchmarks and specifications, it will definitely be a competition for NVIDIA, and it could be a whole market share, like I said already in this article, that Intel will take, and they could take a lot of the people from NVIDIA and AMD, and they could change them over to Intel, depending how a lot of people are waiting to see how this first Intel Arc plays out. But in a sense, it's good for gamers, it's good for miners, it's good for everyone of the sort, in my opinion, because we're getting more fairly priced graphics cards. So whatever you use them for, it's definitely going to be better for everyone at the end of things. But that's it for this news article. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. I just like being in depth with these type of things and really explaining it in layman terms so everyone understands it and everyone knows what's coming. So it's just great to see that Intel is trying to stand out in this way. And it's great to see that there's more competition coming for NVIDIA and AMD. They might think it's nothing to worry about, but we'll see how the market reacts to all this really. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you did enjoy this news video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as it lets me know you guys are enjoying this and that this content is actually entertaining and you guys are getting something from it. But again, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you all have an amazing day, and this is Krebsy Crypto signing out.